What if some of the world's most famous myths weren't just stories? What if behind the legends of gods, monsters, and forgotten civilizations lies the truth of our ancient past? Imagine discovering that the ancient myths we dismissed as fantasy may actually be humanity's fragmented memory of real events. Picture explorers uncovering hidden cities beneath the sea, or scientists linking ancient texts to historical catastrophes. As we flash through iconic imagery, Atlantis lost to the ocean, the towering walls of ancient Troy, and Noah's Ark braving turbulent floods, ask yourself, how much of our history is waiting to be rediscovered? Myths aren't just bedtime stories. They might be time capsules of knowledge, connecting us to forgotten eras. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about ancient stories. Could myth and reality be more intertwined than we think? Let's find out together and unlock the mysteries of ancient times. Throughout human history, myths have fascinated and inspired us. They teach lessons, entertain, and often provide spiritual or moral guidance. But what if they do more than that? What if many myths are windows into actual historical events, distorted by time and storytelling? Today, modern archaeology and scientific research are blurring the boundaries between myth and history, challenging long-held beliefs and uncovering surprising truths hidden in ancient lore. Consider this: why do myths endure for thousands of years if there's nothing but fiction? Perhaps they persist because they are tied to deeper truths hidden beneath layers of legend, symbolism, and oral tradition. Ancient cultures passed these stories down because they carried meaning, and some of that meaning may be rooted in historical events. In this video, we'll explore 5 legendary events that might not be as fictional as they seem. From ancient wars and lost civilizations to biblical floods and mythical flying machines, each story will be examined under the lens of both myth and reality. Stay with us as we dive into these mysteries and unlock secrets of humanity's past that may still shape our present. Event 1. The Trojan War. The myth of the Trojan War has captivated audiences for millennia. According to Greek legend, the war began after Paris of Troy abducted Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world, from her husband, King Menelaus. The Greeks waged a decade-long war, culminating in the famous deception of the Trojan horse. But was this war merely a product of Homer's imagination, or could it have been based on real events that defined ancient power struggles? In the 19th century, archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann uncovered the ruins of a city he believed to be ancient Troy, located in modern-day Turkey. His discoveries included fortifications, weapons, and remnants of a large-scale conflict, sparking debates among historians. Some scholars argue that the war wasn't about Helen but rather about political control over trade routes and regional dominance. Could economic motives and geopolitical rivalries have driven this legendary war, cloaked in the guise of a love story? Homer's epic poem The Iliad may not be a purely fictional creation but an exaggerated retelling of real events. Evidence of destruction layers at the site suggests that a significant conflict took place, though whether it was the Trojan War remains uncertain. Still, the historical context of a major conflict during the Late Bronze Age cannot be ignored. Other cities in the region experienced similar strife, indicating widespread turmoil. It leaves us wondering, could a love story have triggered one of the most famous battles in history, or was it just the cover for larger political ambitions and territorial conquests? Event 2. Atlantis. Few legends capture the imagination like that of Atlantis, the lost city described by the Greek philosopher Plato. According to him, Atlantis was a wealthy, technologically advanced civilization swallowed by the sea in a cataclysmic event. For centuries, people have debated whether Atlantis was real or a cautionary tale invented by Plato to discuss human hubris, natural disasters, and the downfall of powerful nations that overreach their bounds. One popular theory links Atlantis to the Minoan civilization on the island of Santorini, which was devastated by a massive volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE. This eruption caused widespread destruction and tsunamis, which could have inspired stories of a civilization vanishing beneath the waves. Could Plato have used this historical event as the foundation for his narrative? Some researchers believe that descriptions of the island's collapse fit the timeline perfectly. Underwater ruins discovered in various locations around the world have further fueled speculation. Some researchers suggest that the remains of lost cities could be remnants of once thriving coastal civilizations, hidden beneath rising seas over millennia. While mainstream scholars remain skeptical, pointing to the lack of definitive evidence, others suggest that Plato may have based his story on real events woven into myth. If Atlantis existed, it may not have been a single city but a symbol of many lost civilizations and forgotten empires. Could our oceans be hiding entire chapters of history that, once found, will redefine what we know about ancient human development? Event 3. Noah's Ark and the Global Flood. Flood myths are common across cultures, from the biblical tale of Noah's Ark to the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh and Hindu stories of Manu's boat. In the Bible, Noah is warned by God of an impending flood that would cleanse the world. He builds an ark to save his family and pairs of animals. But could there be a historical event behind this global story, shared across so many civilizations, and could it be a memory of an ancient cataclysm that reshaped entire regions? Archaeologists have discovered evidence of massive floods in the ancient Mesopotamian region, where the story of Noah likely originated. The Black Sea deluge theory suggests that around 7,600 years ago, rising sea levels flooded the Black Sea basin, creating a catastrophic event that may have inspired flood myths. This theory is supported by underwater archaeological findings that show submerged ancient shorelines and settlements. Scientists studying sediment layers have identified rapid flooding events in other parts of the world, further supporting the possibility of large-scale regional floods. Some historians argue that these floods were local events, but their impact on early civilizations was profound enough to be mythologized as global disasters. For communities at the time, experiencing massive flooding would have felt like the end of the world. Modern scientific studies of ancient flood patterns add weight to the theory that a major event shaped these stories. Could Noah's Ark be a symbolic retelling of humanity's survival during a real ancient catastrophe? If so, how much of the story is historical fact, and how much is spiritual metaphor meant to inspire faith in divine intervention and renewal? Event 4. The Mahabharata and its flying chariots. The Indian epic Mahabharata describes extraordinary events, including wars involving flying chariots called Vimanas and weapons capable of immense destruction. Some passages describe explosions and fiery weapons that sound eerily similar to descriptions of modern technology or even nuclear blasts. Are these descriptions simply poetic metaphors, or do they hint at lost knowledge from an advanced civilization whose innovations have been lost to time? Scholars have debated the meaning of these descriptions for decades. Some argue that the Vimanas were symbolic representations of spiritual journeys or cosmic battles, conveying philosophical ideas about the nature of power and divinity. Others believe they could reflect memories of ancient technological marvels that have been lost to time. Fringe theories, including the ancient astronaut hypothesis, suggest that advanced technology or even extraterrestrial intervention may be hidden within these stories, preserved as cryptic clues in sacred texts. Artifacts such as ancient carvings depicting flying machines have fueled speculation, though mainstream historians remain cautious. They point to the poetic and allegorical nature of the text, suggesting that the descriptions are symbolic rather than literal. Still, the presence of such detailed accounts raises questions. Could the Mahabharata be preserving fragments of a forgotten technological era, or is it a creative exaggeration of ancient warfare? Perhaps both possibilities coexist, with myths blending fact, imagination, and ancient wisdom passed down through generations. Event 5. The Legend of El Dorado. For centuries, explorers searched for El Dorado, a mythical city of gold hidden in the jungles of South America. Legends described its streets lined with gold and a king who covered himself in gold dust during ceremonies. But despite numerous expeditions, no one ever found the fabled city. However, recent archaeological discoveries suggest the legend may have a basis in reality that was obscured by explorers' exaggerated tales of untold riches. The Muisca people of Colombia practice rituals involving gold offerings, and artifacts from their culture show an abundance of golden objects. The legend of El Dorado likely originated from these practices, where a chieftain would cover himself in gold dust before bathing in a sacred lake as part of a religious ceremony. Scholars now believe that El Dorado may not have been a city but a symbolic reference to these ceremonial practices. This interpretation shifts the focus from a physical location to an ancient cultural tradition that amazed early European explorers. Additionally, the discovery of lost cities like Ciudad Perdida demonstrates that South America's jungles hide ancient civilizations still waiting to be fully explored. Could explorers have exaggerated stories of gold-rich lands due to their obsession with wealth, distorting the true meaning of El Dorado? The legend serves as a reminder of how myths evolve over time, shaped by human greed, imagination, and the clash between indigenous cultures and foreign conquerors. The big question. So, why do myths matter, even if they aren't entirely true? Myths serve as cultural memory, preserving moral lessons, historical hints, and shared beliefs that define societies. They often blend real events with symbolic storytelling, creating narratives that transcend time and teach lessons across generations. In a sense, myths are a society's way of interpreting and coping with the mysteries of the world, from natural disasters to cosmic questions. As we uncover more of the past, we realize that myths aren't just stories, they are humanity's way of remembering. Whether it's the memory of a flood, a lost city, or a great war, myths hold fragments of truth wrapped in legend. As one archaeologist put it, every myth has a kernel of truth waiting to be discovered. Myths can help us understand how ancient people perceived their world and dealt with natural disasters, wars, and unexplained phenomena. They reflect human fears, aspirations, and attempts to explain what was beyond comprehension. So, what do you think? Are these myths echoes of forgotten history, or mere fabrications meant to inspire and teach? One thing is certain, the line between myth and history is thinner than we once believed. Perhaps by studying them, we can not only understand our past but also find guidance for our future. After all, the lessons hidden within myths often have timeless relevance. What do you think? Are these myths simply stories? Or could they be echoes of forgotten history? Let us know in the comments which legend you think is most likely based on real events. And if you're fascinated by the mysterious overlap of myth and fact, make sure to subscribe to Ancient Chronicles. By joining us, you'll dive deeper into the secrets of ancient civilizations and uncover the truth behind the world's greatest myths. Don't miss out. The answers to humanity's biggest questions could be waiting in the next story we uncover. In our next episode, we'll explore ancient texts that describe events eerily similar to modern UFO sightings. Could extraterrestrial visitors have influenced ancient history? Or is this another example of myth echoing reality? Stay tuned to find out. The journey into the unknown has only just begun.